To the January edition live panel discussion show with me, Marnie Cate, your host, and my lovely panel, who I have begged to come join me and talk about putting the we in indie. Hello, everyone. Can we take a moment to introduce ourselves? And let's start with Christie Stratos because she's on my left.
Thanks, Marnie. Hi, everyone. I'm Christie Stratos. I am the author of Anatomy of a Darkened Heart and Lock and Key. These are both books in the Dark Victoriana collection, and I am also the host of The Writer's Edge, so I'm excited to be here tonight. Thanks for inviting me.
And Joe, if you could go ahead and kick it off.
Hello, everybody. I'm Joe Compton. I am owner and operator of GoIndieNow. I'm author of the crime thriller Amongst the Killing and the up-and-coming sequel, We the Moral Majority, and I am always excited to be here, even though I'm pretty much obligated to be here. But I would be here regardless. If Marnie had asked me to be here, of course I would have been here. So I'm really honored that she asked. So
thanks, Joe. And JD is going to join us, and hopefully we can have a cough-free introduction.
We can try for that. I have tea. I have water. I have the control. I am JD Estrada. I'm an indie author from Puerto Rico. I currently live in the randomly weathered state of Georgia. We got more snow than some places that are supposed to be covered in snow, and it's just weird. Anyways, I am the author of The Human Cycle, which includes Only Human in Shadow of a Human. I also write poetry. I write middle grade short stories. I have a bilingual collection which has essays, short stories, and poetry, and basically anything that tickles my pickle and drives me to push myself as a writer, I'm gonna go for it.
Wonderful. And JM Northup.
Hi, I'm JM Northup, Julie. I primarily write in young adult, but I do everything from children's all the way to erotica. So if you're interested in reading, I'm sure I've got a book I could throw your way.
Thank you, Julie. And the very PG Rebekah Jonesy is going to join us now. Thank you, Rebekah.
Yeah, totally PG. Hi, I'm Rebekah Jonesy. I'm an author of romance and erotica, and I actually have a new series coming out of fantasy, which is neither romantic nor erotic, actually.
Wonderful.
And thank you for having me on.
No, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. I know working, and thank you for taking the time out to stop promoting and actually come and talk about it. So my first question, actually, I wanted to start out with talking about promotion and how each of you are known for really being supportive of everyone in the community, the indie community, and going above and beyond to help promote either through blogging or for reviewing. And wanted to find out a little bit more about that and how you got into that. So if everyone can let us know, what kind of promoter are you, first of all?
Are there exact labels? Is this like an INFJ promoter?
Kind of, yeah. No, sorry. I'll be more clear. I am a blogger.
Okay.
I do the Indie Insight show where I interview authors, and I also do a little bit of blogging. So other people do reviewing. I do not review books. I don't have time to review.
Okay, I'll just jump in because I already spoke once and I'm in the mood apparently. I'm a Pantser promoter in the sense that if I have your book, I'll take a picture with it. I do have a BookTube channel. I do reviews there. I do book tags, and I always try to mention indie books because everyone keeps mentioning the same names, and I don't know if I hear once again Crooked Kingdom or Caraval or The Night Circus or books that are mentioned ad nauseum. I go like, there are other books, and it's cool to be part of the crowd. It's really fun. But it's, there's people who have, interesting and original stories that you might want to check out. I do reviews. Basically, everything that I read, I review. I try to be as honest as possible with my reviews. Rarely do I have to do a really negative review of people that I know. When it has happened, I send them the review and I say, this could be bad, but this is the review. I'm not gonna, I want to support people, but never being disingenuous, because once you cop out that way, you're always going to be asked to take a dive. And that's just something I'm not comfortable with. And another thing I do is when I do giveaways, sometimes I gift the books of other people. I've gifted Christie's book. I've gifted Joe's book. I've gifted Anais Chachenko's books, Amy Irene Winters. I'm pretty sure I gifted Anna Erfel. And just anything to help, because a lot helps a lot, but even a little goes a long way. And a lot of people don't know that until you're in our shoes and you have someone help that really just wanted to help. They didn't want anything in return. You go like, wow, that was nice. And then you help each other, and generally help each other, because the people that I help is because I read them, I care for them, and I care for their work. A combination of the three, or all three. All the people that I did mention is a combination of all three, though.
Wow. So you've kind of answered a bunch of questions, but I'm going to let Christie let us a little bit know about the format that she uses, or the type of promoting she does.
Yeah, thanks. I do some things similar to JD, where I'll do giveaways here and there on my YouTube channel of other books. And I do retweets on Twitter of other people's books when they post it specifically to mention the blurb. But one thing I probably do, well, I do host the Writer's Edge, where I try to find different authors who I sometimes have the authors we all know that are in our indie circles, and then I try to get outside of that to bring other people in. And sometimes they're USA bestselling or New York Times bestselling, and sometimes they're just beginning, but as long as they have expertise in what they're talking about, that's the point. And there's a lot of people with expertise that we don't realize has it. So I try to bring those people onto the Writer's Edge too, and get some major diversity there. And just on my regular YouTube channel, what I do is not always mention books, but mention names and like what that person is like. And so I'll mention like JD's generosity, or Joshua Robertson's, amazing writing, but his platform and things like that. And then I'm hoping that people will hear that and hear what kind of a person that is, and go look them up and see who am I talking about? What do they do? What do they write? Maybe intrigue them a little bit. So I would say that I mostly do that kind of stuff. I don't do too much blogging, which I'm trying to change this year, but I would say most of it is via YouTube.
Thank you. And Julie?
I do a lot of blogging, but I do a lot of sharing as well. I have a author, personal, and book group on Facebook, and I will share out on those. I kind of Twitter. I'm not really, and Pinterest, but I'm not really big on those. But I do like to try to share out, new releases, cover reviews. I do a lot of reviewing. I do a lot of editing for people. And then I try to share, some books just impassion you, and so just word of mouth is still the best way. So if I get really excited, then I tell everybody about it. I like to do a lot of interviews and spotlights, because I think, like what Christie was saying, if you kind of have an idea of the person, sometimes that gives you a connection and it draws you into the work, and then you can kind of understand why they've written what they've written, or where they might be going with something, and you get a more personal connection. I do a lot of Google Plus, because that helps with SEO. So that's mostly what I do. And then I just started a small press, and so we'll see what happens with that, and how hopefully I can help some other indies with that as well.
Very cool. Rebekah, would you mind telling us a little bit about the way you promote?
I'm basically just a fangirl. That's really what it boils down to. I promote the books that I love, because I love books. sometimes, I know the authors who are attached to those books.
Podcast.
Sometimes I also have a YouTube channel, Beautiful Book Geeks, where we geek out about books. Because, well, Heidi and I are massive readers, and we absolutely love talking about books. I have a blog where I review books. I talk about books on Facebook and Twitter. I'm not on Pinterest because I would never get off. But I just started talking about the things that I love, and those things are books. And so it helped.
And last but not least is Mr. Joe Compton. And I know many of you already know what he does, but let's just find out in case we don't.
Well, we're on it. So this is my channel, GoIndie Now. I do a lot of stuff on video, promoting as many authors and as many artists as I possibly can, indie artists of all art forms. That's my platform. I have a blog that I use for guest blogs. So, and I've done a couple of blogs myself on there, but for the most part, I do allow it to be more of a guest blog. I do Q&As on my website as well. And just overall promoting through social media. I think everybody said it. We all tend to gravitate to the people that we get to know and enjoy, and thus, in doing so, we end up promoting one another. I mean, the chat is really saying the same thing, and I think that's really poignant. Is that without each other to push one another, it's very hard to move forward. And so this is why this is a great topic. But that's, anytime I see somebody out there who needs a hand promoting something, that's kind of how I approach it. So
Thanks, Joe. You actually led into my next question, which is, do you have a criteria for your promotion? Is there, like Rebekah said, she's a fangirl. So is it just books you like you'll promote? Or is it just like, I really like this person, and even if I maybe don't like their genre, I'm still going to promote the hell out of them because I love that person? Or do you'll promote anything? So do you have any criteria before you go out and promote?
If I could jump in, I think for me, the important thing is that I get to know you, the person. I think that's where my distinction is. If I see you're somebody who just posts their book link 100 times over, and that's all you ever post, that's not something that I'm into. I mean, I'll post it maybe once or twice for you, but I like to see that there's an interaction and that we're being people, because I won't, and getting to know you gives me an insight into how much you want to be a part of this, and in doing that, I think I will always promote those who really want to be a part of this, and just that's just the only criteria I really have. If I see you out there and I know you, I'm going to promote you. It's just the way I go.
Anyone else have a criteria, or is it similar?
I tend to I want to know what I'm promoting, but there are times when I'm approached by friends who are promoters, or who that's their business, is to approach you and say, hey, can you do a review, or hey, can you share, do a blog tour? Or so I have done some of those, but I prefer to know about what I'm doing, because I don't want to back something that I don't either understand, or maybe I'm not comfortable with, or but I do have to agree with Joe that if you have somebody who's passionate about what they're doing and they really care, then I become very impassioned about helping that person. I know I've run across a couple authors who, when I first met them, I was like, oh wow, they're awesome. And then I start to kind of work with them a little bit and get to know them a little bit. And I realize that they really don't care about the quality of what they're putting out. They're about quantity, or, you know, that they have a different agenda than just, I want to tell a good story and make my reader have something of quality that, you know, is worth their time and money. And so when I've run across some of those authors, I shy away, because I feel that if I'm going to publish something, I'm publishing it because I want to share something that I'm impassioned about. And if I don't care about it, why should you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm a little bit lucky in the way my promotion is, that I do an interview. So I'm not promoting per se their book. I'm promoting that author and getting to know that author. So there's many times the books are books that I wouldn't really enjoy reading, because that's not my genre and not my style. But the person, if you take a time to hear some of the interviews I've had, the people are so engaging and interesting that it made me want to go out and read their genre and their book, just to see this person and a little bit more about them. So I'm lucky in that forefront. I don't have to be picky because I'm not promoting a book, but it can get tricky, like trying to keep your brand and also, you know, promoting someone else's.
I think for me, it goes for levels. It's not across the board. I try to retweet and support people because everyone has a dream and everyone has the right to a dream. When you engage with a person and you get to know that person and you like that person, or you care about that person, or you respect that person, I think that's a very important word to use in all of this. You promote more. When you read their work and you love their work, genuinely love their work, you promote more. When you see that these people aren't getting the attention that you honestly believe that they deserve, you promote more. In this panel, I've been able to interact on different levels. Some I'm just meeting. Others I've known for years. Joe, Christie, Rebekah are not just people that I know that write, they're friends. Christie's not someone whom I just respect. Her book is basically my favorite indie book and one of my favorite books. I still have to read Lock and Key, but my TBR, I'm being a hard ass on myself with the TBR because I want to read it. Anais Charchenko wrote what I believe is the most important, or one of the most important books from last year. Another friend of mine, Kate Evans from England, wrote a very important book, and I'll be doing my best of 2017. And these are people that don't get read, that have 1 review, 2 reviews, 5 reviews, and you go like, you know, these people make something that is significant. And I mentioned the whole pushing hype books, because hype books will always happen, but try to imagine finding that gem and trying to do whatever you can to make people check this channel. Why don't people say, oh, I don't know anything about indie? And I'm like, wow, you have not seen any link that I've shared from Go Indie Now. Seriously. You haven't seen any panel that I've been there. You haven't seen the interviews that I've done. And you don't pay attention to what I do, because I try to boost Joe, not just because I genuinely care about Joe, but because, first off, the effort is Herculean. Second off, more genuine people are hard to come by. And third off, you know, I'm an indie writer and I benefit from this, and we all benefit from supporting each other. So it varies, you know. To do a retweet, a lot of people I can retweet or fave or mention or whatnot. I do interview people for my blog. Again, these are people that I know and that I say more people should be able to dig into who this person is, not just their work, not just their poetry, not just their stories, but who they are. Because maybe if they see that, they'll say, wow, I should give him a chance, because that's what happened with me with so many people and so many interviews that And other people have said, oh, I was able to discover this person because of this interview. And I go, that's what I'm trying to go for. And trying to offer different answers and perspectives, because the beauty about indie is that we go by our own, rules. The bad thing is that there's a lot of people who suck. So you have to be picky. And there's people that go like, well, I'll promote your book if you promote mine, and I'll review your book if you review mine. I've done that on certain occasions to see how it feels, and it really feels bad. You get that oily feeling. And there's some people that have tried to push me to promote their books, and little by little, I unfollow on all their channels. And sometimes there's one left, and it's hanging by a thread that I go like, for me to completely block you, it takes a lot. And I don't do it because I also want to learn from the experience. But for me to buy your book and take a picture, that just means that not only do I care, you do something that's really worthwhile sharing. And anything I can do to give a hand and have one more reader is worth it.
The review for Sahara Foley mentioned in the comments that review for review is a terrible trap. And I know we've all been victims of that. So that's one of the things, promoting people. How much of it is give and take? I mean, I know if you go into it expecting to get a lot back, you're going to be really sadly disappointed. And as far as if you think you're going to get a lot more book sales per se based on helping other people. But what do you get out of this? I mean, I know that there's so many hours that are spent promoting other people's work, cutting into your own reading time, your own writing time. What do you get out of it?
A better society, a better place to be, a world where people care about art, and a community that is galvanized and truthful and just helping one another. That's what I get out of it. I think that's something that is so important. You can't replace the feeling you get in your soul. You can't. No amount of money can do that. No amount of selfishness or anything can replace that. It is just the most. It's the most overwhelming feeling you'll ever experience, and I don't, whether you reciprocate it or not, I get as much out of it as I can possibly put into it, and that's why I do it.
I agree with Joe there. I can't stop other people from being jerks, but I cannot be a jerk. That's what I get out of it. I get the joy. I have a love of reading. I share that. If someone else doesn't do it, that's on them, not on me. What I put out is good stuff. Not my books, but what I say, my energy I put out, it's good stuff. I want to share that. And for me, that's enough. Also, I understand, not everyone's going to like my books. I don't write genres that everyone likes. So if they don't respond with a review, then maybe they just didn't like my genre. That's fine.
Or maybe they don't like reviews. I mean, you got to admit, reviews are a lot like a high school book, a homework, the grade school book report, having to go back and do that dreaded book report. Can't I just read the book? Why do I got to talk about it? So,
or anymore, it could be, they did review your book and Amazon took it down.
Right.
For me, I'll keep this one actually pretty simple. I try to put out what I respond to, in the sense that there's some people who only promote their stuff and they're full on. You could be nice and say overly confident, or you can be honest and say braggarts, and you say it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. And I don't want. I want my actions to leave people with a positive impact, and not going like that Splenda aftertaste of of being disingenuous, that's so beautiful. And I honestly hate that. And I just can't support that either.
I have to say that I think Joe hit the nail on the head for me. I do it because of community. I do it because I love what I do. I love literature. I love books. I love hearing the ideas and the creativity, and not just of the authors, but the cover artists, and picking the brains of the editors and stuff so that I can get that technical element of it. I enjoy it. The people that I've met since publishing, that's the reason I publish, because you're not going to get rich in this business. It's so rare to have something like a J.K. Rowling, or to have like a Veronica Roth. She actually started out indie and moved on. You know what I mean? And so to be there and to have like minds and that connection, for me, that's why I do it. And that makes it worth it to me.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone said, for sure. And I think somebody mentioned, or maybe a couple people mentioned, that whole review for review thing, and maybe it was Marnie. And man, when I first joined the indie community, I was so excited because I saw so much support, and that really pushed me. Between that and NaNoWriMo really pushed me to write my first book. So I was excited about that. And then I did 2 of those review for review, and I hated that. I really hated it. And I thought, this is just how you do it, because that's what I kept seeing done. But when you read a book and somebody's already given you 5 stars and you really don't think their book is that great, like written wise, like not even having to do with genre, it's just not what you would consider something great, it's painful. What do you do? It's so hard. And I've seen so many people say, I don't know what to do. And so I just don't do that anymore because it's easier. But I tend to I enjoy learning from people. And I've learned from everyone on this panel. I've learned from a lot of people in the audience tonight, and so many other people. And I want to share those people with other people so that they can learn too, and they get the benefit of that positivity and that encouragement and excitement. For me, that's a really, really big deal. And it's not the same if you sort of learn from somebody or experience something great and then you just keep it to yourself. It doesn't feel so good. It feels really good to share that. It's so positive. I love it. So that's definitely one of the reasons I do it. And I had started just sort of on my own author channel, YouTube channel, I would just mention people randomly, and that's how I would do no returns, nothing like that. Just talk about it, retweet somebody, put it on Facebook, whatever I do, and that's like where it ends for me. So definitely the learning is the number one thing, though, and the positivity and encouragement.
Actually, I'd like to build on that a little, because I'd like to point out that Christie and Joe, they do not talk themselves up very much at all. I found out about them through this show, basically. As an indie author myself, wanted to learn some tips, some tricks, things like that. So I knew you guys. Well, I'd been following you guys. I didn't know you guys for a while before I even knew that you had a book, especially Joe. Freaking never talks about his book. I love you, but seriously, dude. So, one of the reasons I do it is because you guys don't talk yourselves up enough. You've really got a bad cold there, dude. But, someone has to be out there cheering you guys on, because everyone should know about your books. Haha, you didn't come through that time.
Thank you so much, Rebekah. That's so nice.
That's very nice of you to say.
Actually, JD was one too. I met JD and then I read his book. I didn't even know he was an author, and then I happened to notice one of his books and I read that too, and it was amazeballs.
Well, the audience had a comment that I thought maybe would be a good question. Joshua Robertson, who's another one that's really Taylor's there. I'm really bad at trying to do the Sahara Foley. All of you guys are really good promoters of the community. So I wish you guys were here also. But you're not. So instead, we'll just repeat your questions here. So Joshua said, in the wrong way, you can hurt your brand. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
It all goes back to credibility. If you'll give a good review to something that sucks, and then someone reads it, they're not going to believe you ever again. Even if it's just once that you do it, that's all it takes.
And they're not going to believe that you know what you're talking about, maybe in that genre or in reading at all. They're like, well, if she thinks that's good, then I don't want to read her books, because, I mean, she thinks she writes good too. Well, her standards are really low, and I don't want to read her stuff.
Indeed. And also, sometimes you see books that you're offered to read for free. And then you're scratching yourself because you're at the second page and you're going like, what is this? This wouldn't even be a good email. Then you see the reviews, you start reading, then you notice that some of the reviews look eerily familiar. And sometimes people, review for review. And if you're short on time, here's something that you can post. And if I learned that anyone did that, I don't know how I would react. But I saw that recently, and I was dumbfounded that someone would focus on the numbers game as much, that much and that sleazily. And that's stuff that happens.
Actually, I think, JD, building off what you said, I think Joshua Robertson, and Joshua, correct me in the chat if I'm wrong, but I think once you shared he shared in a newsletter of his that, what was it? It was that some authors, and they were even bigger authors who needed reviews, were saying in their newsletters, yeah, maybe Joshua was saying this on Facebook, in their newsletters, they were saying, could you just leave a review? It doesn't matter so much if you've read it, just leave something. And it was like, ooh, whoa, I would rather have 3 good reviews than like 50 fake ones,
Very good point.
I think that's the thing why, like, you have to know what you're promoting too. I mean, I will read and promote things that are in genres that maybe I'm not necessarily comfortable with, or it's not my go-to genre. But like what JD said, I'm going to be sincere in what I say. If I feel like it's not something I'm comfortable with supporting, I'm going to let that person know on a individual basis, because I don't want to tarnish them either, because I know that sometimes it's just my personal preference and my style, and it's not really necessarily a technical thing for them. Like, they could be a good writer, but I can't get into it. I just reviewed a book not too long ago that was like that. It was part of a series, and I did the first book, and I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do the rest of the books. This is just not for me, but I'm going to be sincere in what I say when I do support it. It was a good book. It just was not my taste. And I think if you start just, being generic and just trying to, like they said, do the numbers game yourself, that's not fair to the artist. It's not fair to the readers. And that, I think, is where you lose ground. That's where you lose credibility, and you lose your own brand, because nobody's going to believe anything.
Good points, guys. There's a lot of conversation going in the chat that I wish I could bring into this panel right now. They're talking about different ways on honest reviews. Taylor Talk says, an honest review, good or bad, is better than a fake one any day of the week. And then Sahara asks, does a 3-star review count as a bad review? So there's a lot of different points as far as when we're supporting people. That's a good question. Actually, I'd like to answer on that one. On the 3-star, do you guys consider that giving someone a bad review?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, but it depends, like they were saying in the chat, it depends on how it's written. If it's an honest 3-star, you can give a book a 3-star and like, it was well written, got the point across, story was good, needs edits. You know what? I might buy that book. So that's not a bad review. If it's 3-star and it's completely generic sounding and it feels forced, I'm probably not going to buy a book based on that one.
It's all about the content, and the rating is relative. Sometimes the rating doesn't correspond to what people are saying. And there's my only 1-star review. I feel there's a huge disconnect between the 1-star and the review, because I read the review and you go like, I would say that's at the very least a 2-star or a 3-star review. But basically they didn't get the concept or something, and you know, whatever, 1-star, and you question that. But a 3-star review, there's different types of reviewers. If you're going to give a negative review, be constructive and be kind. There's some people who get off on being mean, being super mean, because yeah, you know, I'm such a badass because I'm such a badass reviewer that, and I don't get that attitude with anything in life. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm 37 and I don't know, I don't wet my pants anymore. I just think it's really juvenile, and it leaves a lot to be said about whoever leaves that review. You know, do you get your rocks off by bringing someone down and having nothing constructive to say? There's actually a book that I'm going to be reading by another indie author who's in the booktube community. He's a really nice kid. His name is Ben Sanders. And I read a couple of the reviews. Some are brutal that you read and you go like, this is not a genuine review, and this is a personal attack more than anything else, which I don't get. He's a really nice guy. But it depends on the content, because if you only let yourself be skewed by if it's a 4.23 versus a 4.58 to buy a book, then that's kind of weird, but that's your choice though.
Reviews are so subjective though, and the platform the review is on can be subjective as well, because like if you're looking at Goodreads, there's a lot of people who are like, if you like a book, it's a 3-star, you know what I mean? And they're very like criteria driven, I guess is how I kind of feel. And I don't review that way. I always try to find something about a book that I like. I always try to be honest about what it is. And if it's a book that I just feel excited about reading, whether it's a normal genre or not, that I usually will be drawn to, if I feel excited and I've enjoyed it, it's a 5-star. But just because I give it a 3-star doesn't mean it's going to be a bad book. And I'll say I gave it a 3-star because either I just couldn't connect with the character, or, you know, the story was, you know, slower for me or whatever. And I'm going to be honest about why it didn't just fill me with that excitement, you know, but it doesn't mean it's a bad book, and it doesn't mean it's a bad review. It just, you know, for me personally, I just wasn't able to engage with it. But like I say, there's some people who are, if they're going to review, to get them to review higher than a 3 is like pulling teeth, because to them, a 3-star is what a 5-star is to somebody else. So it's really hard to say, you know, what's a good review, because it's going to be based on that person and that platform.
Yeah, for me, I have so many thoughts about this because this is a thing for me. So I wrote them down because I was really, I thought I'd forget them. Anyway, so there are a few things with this. I think that one of the reasons that some authors consider a 3-star review to be negative, not everyone does, but some people do, is if you have a 5-star rating, a 3-star brings you down. And that hurts, like, just because it brings the average down. So like, I understand that completely, although a 3-star rating is not bad. I also think that there are cases where people have different definitions of what each star is. Just like on Amazon, they have different definitions of what is a new condition book, what is a like new condition book, and you can have problems with that and end up with returns and stuff. And I've seen people who think that 3 stars is like really, really good, and then like never give 5 stars. And that was another thing. I've gotten like 3-star reviews before where I'll look at what a person's review history is out of interest, because they didn't write like anything. They just gave it 3 stars. And their review history is like 1 and 2 stars for the most part. So they think 3 stars is high. So that's kind of an interesting thing that I had no idea about before I published a book, and was like, this is interesting. I wish they had left feedback, you know, and then I started looking at this stuff. So I just wanted to share those things because I think that it's different when you look at it from a reader perspective than when you look at it from an author perspective. And so many of us have even looked at 4 stars and been like, oh no, you know, it's just like one of those things that happens when you first publish and you're like all upset, but it's actually not a big deal. But yeah, I definitely think that the way we define things can make a huge difference.
We did have a question from the audience. Since we've definitely decided reviews are a topic maybe we should have a panel on. If we haven't already done that, sorry if we have. The question is, have we had one? It's been a long life, Joe. I can't remember every panel we've done. So as authors,
Yes, we've had one.
we have. Well, maybe we need it again. So as authors, who are promoters? What tips would you all offer to help differentiate between the genre you read and the genre you write?
I just put out there that I read everything. Hopefully you guys can't hear the cat fight that's happening under my feet. Everyone knows that I read everything. If you're following me, you already know what I write. If you look at my blog, you know what I read. You know what I review. That's, you know, it pretty much takes care of itself, to be honest.
I think a good tip is, you know, what do you gush on? Basically, most people who follow me know that I'm a Ravenclaw, so that gives kind of an idea of what I'm into.
Nerd.
Super nerd. I have the scarf, I have the gloves, and I have a beanie, and I have the socks, obviously. But what you review, if you see the history and what you promote, you know, it doesn't have to be aligned. There's some people who like only read fantasy and only write fantasy. They stay in that genre, and which is weird to me because I like jumping out of my comfort zone in what I write and what I read, because I find it interesting and it's just new experiences. So I often mention what are my favorites, but you know, what do I exclusively read? I don't exclusively read anything. If something catches my attention and it's nonfiction, I don't care. I'll read it. Some nonfiction sucks, but again, some fantasy sucks. Some fantasy is awesome. You're going to have good and bad in any genre. But to me, I treat it like ice cream flavors or food, or, you know, I try random stuff all the time. And I document it so that people see the reaction, because it's fun to try to process something that your brain is going, what did you put in your mouth? Well, the same happens when you read a random book. Your brain is going, what is this? And you're either going to recoil or you're going to dig deeper. But just gush about it and talk about what you like.
I think that's the thing too, like with the promoting, and that is I don't lock myself into something because I don't want to be bored. I don't want to restrict myself, and I don't want to restrict my readers or followers the same way. I want them to come to my pages and enjoy what they're seeing and find some new stuff. And when I find new stuff, it's like Christie said, I want to share, you know, this is great. Oh my gosh, this person wrote this story and it was fantastic. Did it have flaws? Every piece of literature has some flaws, every piece. So to say like, oh, well, it's indie or it's traditional, or no, that's every piece has something, you know? So to find something that just makes me excited. Now, I tend to be drawn personally to historical fiction, but that's not, so that's my comfort zone, but that's not where I stay. And the fact that I've been able to read, you know, some of these horror books or sci-fi or fantasy, or it's opened new doors to me. It's brought me into genres that I didn't even know existed. Like, I didn't know urban fantasy was a thing, you know. And then to read, and I read it, and it was actually Fly By Night, I think it was, and there was Playing with Fire, and they're part of the same series, and they were urban fantasy, and it was fantastic. And I was like, I didn't even know this was cool, you know. So to share that and to find that, that's what it's about. But when I'm writing, I write from a character base. So even then, I don't lock myself into a genre. I tend to fall into that young adult, new adult. But it's based more on the content of where my brain is thinking, opposed to, oh, I'm going to write in young adult. You know what I mean? It's just where the story falls.
Or writing in the genre that sells.
Does any genre really, like, I know the genre that sells rumor, has anyone ever like struck gold with that idea? Like, I'm gonna not write what I like, I'm gonna go write, I mean, isn't it
J.K.
all
Rowling.
But did she write it?
No, actually, you're right. No, she didn't, because she was published for a long time before she made it big.
Right.
You're right.
So
You just happened to fall into it.
right, and she might have made it with her
I don't
book.
think that you can write something good and something that's powerful or something that really can move a reader if you're not moved by it. So to just pop out this crap or this generic thing, I can't do that, and I refuse to do that. I think if I'm not excited about it, if it doesn't move me, if it's, why am I wasting my time and energy in it? And I sure as heck don't want readers spending their time, money, and energy into it. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to me. Just like I'm not going to follow, like, everyone's like, oh, this is what's trending now, so you should do this. You know, I'm not going to do that either, because I'm going to be true to my voice and to my characters and let that empower my story. You know what I mean? And there's going to be people out there who are going to like them, and there's going to be people who are going to be like, this is horrible. But that's their choice and that's their right. And that's why there's a gazillion books out there. There's something for every reader. You know, I may not be it, so maybe you'll see a book on my blog that I've reviewed and it's more your speed. You know what I mean?
When I released Only Human, there's vampires in it, but it's not a vampire book. And people were like, oh, that's a really smart move. And I'm like, first off, they don't sparkle. Second off, I didn't write about vampires because I thought it would sell. It's just something that fascinates me, and I wanted to offer something really different and not your typical vampire with the whole, oh my God, you have garlic or a cross and all those things. And again, they don't sparkle.
I have to say, dude, I've read your vampires. They don't sparkle, and I'm sorry, they're not in the least bit sexy.
None of them. Not
Okay,
even
the ship part, and the captain. That's kind of sexy.
I wasn't going for sexy, but hey.
Strong is sexy.
Oh my, I think we lost you guys to some vampire love that not really sure of. I do not write about vampires, so I can't contribute to that. Julie might write about vampires. So
mine is an ancient alien more than it is a vampire, but he does like blood. So he is the god of war.
So not really vampire, just a little blood. That's okay. So I just want to ask this because I wrote it down and I'm going to ask it. How much time do you guys think you put into promoting other people? Just curious.
More than I put in for myself.
Like if you gave a percentage.
A percentage of our workload, or a percentage of how much we promote other people compared to how much we promote ourselves?
I would say workload included.
I'd say about 20%. If I like to lie to myself.
You kind of cut out.
I'd say about 20% of my workload is Yeah, that sounds about right. About 20% of my workload is promoting other people. But again, it's because I'm a fangirl and I gush, so I can't really stop that.
I promote about 3 stars. That's good, right?
Joe, you promote about 99%, so you can't even answer the question. Julie, 99%. Christie, you all are over promoter achievers, friendly, hippie love commune people, as I always talk about when I talk about the indie community. You all are just like a big ball of love and hugs, wrapping everyone up and wanting to lift everyone on above you on their shoulder and carry them through, helping them build their spirits up and keep writing their books.
But if you're
So
wearing patchouli, I'm not hugging you.
I'd be okay. I'll hug anybody. You gotta hug everyone. Well, this has been a really fun panel, and I know the audience has been kind of going crazy here. So, is there anything that you guys would like to share before we wrap it up? Talk about our putting the we in indie. Any tips for new people?
I actually have something I would like to say. Yes, if you guys would all promote yourselves just a little bit more, I wouldn't have to stop. I could stop like climbing up that mountain to yell your praises. Just saying.
Taylor wants us to write more books. Oh no, he said I know, write more books. Got it. But instead, just write more books works too.
I've got 3 coming out in the next quarter, so.
I think for a new writer, my biggest thing that I would suggest is do get involved in the community, because that's where you're going to learn the most. That's where you're going to grow. You're going to become a better writer. And you're going to develop your stories deeper, because the veterans know what they're talking about. They've really been through a lot, and their voices have really grown, and they'll help you to grow. But that being said, be true to who you are, and don't spam. God, don't spam. You know, you can promote yourself, but you don't want to inundate the social media or anything like that. I mean, we've all had even like the Hollywood superstars and the big name writers who you're just like, oh God, them again. You know what I mean? So just remember that it's all about balance and just enjoying what you do.
Actually, that reminded me of one more thing. Actually, don't yell at people to buy your book. Don't do that. I actually had an author do that to me recently, and it completely turned me off reading any of her books. Don't yell at me. Especially don't yell at me to buy something from you.
I would like an example of yelling at you to buy your book. Is just all caps or literally like yelled at you?
Like, she came into a post, just a regular post on Facebook, just chit-chatting. And yes, all in caps. Buy my book. Read my book. I need reviews. I'm like, no. Not ever gonna happen now.
Wow.
So that's a good tip on how not to make friends in the indie community. Now, on a side note, if you're an older woman and you're kind of new to the computer, but you're telling your story, sometimes the cap locks is something you don't know is bad. Cap locks means you're yelling people. We get scared. Go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you want me to promote myself more, so here you go. In my last This Week in Indie show, which dropped yesterday on our Facebook page, facebook.com/GoIndieNow, I mentioned that I have a challenge for all of you. This year, 2018, is a huge year and I challenge each and every one of you, all of you in the chat, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. But I guess I could just say it right here, right now. But I wouldn't be promoting my channel, but whatever. I'll just say it. I won't want to challenge each and every one of you to bring a brand new indie into the fold. Find somebody that nobody knows about, that hasn't been a part of our community before. Bring them in here, introduce them to all of us. We're not that scary, and I only bite when requested.
JD's pretty scary.
It's the beard.
But bring somebody in and promote them and show them what this community is all about. That was my challenge to everybody in my show yesterday. So now you don't have to go watch my show, which I just probably shot myself in the foot, but whatever.
But there was other things in the show they would miss if they don't go watch the show.
Very true.
That was such an unimportant part of it. Go ahead, watch the rest.
No, we're gonna watch the show. At least for me, there are 3 indie writers, or at least actually 4, that I'm pending to read. That I am gonna refer, and I've talked to them a bit about the panels and what we do. And again, nice people, respect them. For me to bring someone in, they have to be cool. Not a cool kid, just someone who's genuine and is going for it, and that people can get behind, because I think it's important and it's always good. And in terms of tip, have fun. A lot of people forget to have fun. I try to make this a daily thing, with different things and challenging myself creatively to come up with goofy ass things, just to have fun. If you're going to promote people, you can have fun doing it. If you want to connect with people, have fun, because if you do that, even if you don't get a retweet or whatever, you had a good time doing it, and that in itself, it's its own reward. So just
Bananas 00.
I have no idea what you said, but there's a horrible, horrible virus going around this panel.
Hello, bananas.
Bananas 000. Bananas 00. Go check it out on Instagram.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you. Sorry. And Christie, my favorite quiet panelist.
I would say, first of all, Joe, I'm going to answer your challenge with someone that I would like to immediately take credit for, that we all know and love, and that's Christina Rienzi. Taking credit, and that's my contribution.
That's not fair. I interviewed her also.
No, but I brought her onto the Writer's Edge first, so I win.
Prove it. I'd like the
I met her at Sisters in Crime. So anyway,
she's dropping the Sisters in
Crime. I'm pretty proud, you know.
All right. Well,
in terms of my advice, though, to somebody who's just coming in, I would say just be generous and share what you like. You know, JD was saying, share something that you want to share, but don't do these things because you want something back, because it's just not the same, in my opinion. Do it because you really want to share it. You really love that book. You think that author is a really good person. You've seen them sharing and you want to share them, you know, that kind of stuff. And I mean, that's my biggest advice. I think it feels the best, and it's not about anything but positivity. At that point, you're just doing something because you want to, and you feel they deserve it, or the book deserves it, or whatever it is. So don't be afraid to be generous. A lot of people come in being afraid of being burned, you know, especially in creative circles. You never know what has been said to them in the past, you know, heavy critique or criticism, something like that. Just be generous yourself and be kind, and you'll get it back. I mean, that's not the point, but you will get it back.
And I'm just going to say that was 2017, Christie. So that doesn't count toward my challenge. So you need to win 2018 as well. You did win 2017. I'll give you that.
Okay.
How did she win 2017? Hold on. I would like to go back to the 31 people I interviewed on Go Indie Now, Indie Insight, and I would like a recount. I feel like maybe I won the popular vote.
Can we just split it in half and give you both half?
Yes, we can all share the love.
I don't want to get into
No, we're fine. I'm just teasing. No, we're all great. Well, thank you. I think, is it time to call it a wrap, guys? Or I know the chat's, I'm afraid to turn off the chat. They're having too much fun. Joshua Robertson.
After that last comment, I think it might be time to close down that chat.
I know. Yeah, I'm gonna not go with that. They're fun though. Anyway, I would encourage everyone, if you're coming in late and you're watching this on the recording, come to the live shows, because it's a whole other joy watching the chat. It's like a show within a show. And then there's a weird awkward silence. My panel's so polite, always.
No, we're all just busy laughing at the chat right now.
Well, thank you so much, everyone. Let's call it a wrap. And if we wouldn't mind, let everyone know how we can find you. I'm Marnie Cate. You can find me at marniecate.com.
I'm
Rebekah.
Find me at jmnorthup.com or Norm's Triad Publications. Thanks for having me, Marnie.
Thanks for joining us, Julie.
I'm Rebekah Jonesy. You can find me on Beautiful Book Geeks on YouTube or at Rebekah Jonesy at Blogspot.
I'm Christie Stratos. You can find me at christiestratos.com. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all over the place. And my blog is getting a revamp soon, so I will be updating it more often from now on. And thanks for having me, as always.
I'm JD Estrada. If you want to find me, look for JD Estrada Writer, because if you look for JD Estrada, you might find Filipino people for some reason, on YouTube specifically. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. I do have a blog, jdestrada.writer.blogspot.com. I try to keep it varied, and I never get bored.
If you don't know where to find me, then you're in the wrong place, because you just found me. This is me, GoIndie Now, GoIndieNow.com. And we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, here on YouTube. If you haven't yet, please do subscribe to our channel. We would love that, because we do a lot of these. We do one of these every month, and we do a lot of stuff. And I'm going to be in Park City, Utah next week. And I'll be doing a lot of live stuff through YouTube on, daily vlogging. And so there'll be more chatting to be had for everybody who is going to miss this chat when we go off air here. But I will have my live available to chat as well. So come and check me out next week. Starting Wednesday, I'll be in Utah.
Thanks, Joe. And thank you again, everyone who took the time to watch this and help promote us by sharing this with your friends, and join our interviews and join our panels and give us suggestions on what you want to hear, what you're looking for. And remember, it's always a good time to go indie now.